Welcome to Concrete Block, the podcast where we dive into the latest news and current events shaping our world. I'm your host, Walter, and we're glad you're joining us today. As we begin, let's take a closer look at the ongoing situation between Europe and Russia. The conflict in Ukraine has led to a significant escalation of tensions between the two sides, with many European countries imposing sanctions on Russia and providing military aid to Ukraine. But despite these efforts, Russia remains a powerful and influential player on the global stage. A recent article in Foreign Affairs suggests that Europe needs to revise its approach to Russia, adopting a more aggressive and calculating strategy to counter Russian aggression. The author argues that by encouraging elite defection and capital flight, Europe can weaken the Kremlin from within and create an opportunity for regime change. But is this approach too simplistic or even counterproductive? Some argue that it could lead to further instability in the region, or even play into Putin's hands by allowing him to portray himself as a strong leader under siege. Others point out that Russia's economy is already showing signs of strain and that targeted sanctions and diplomatic pressure may be more effective in bringing about change. As we explore this topic further, it's essential to consider multiple perspectives and avoid taking a simplistic or biased view. The situation is complex, with many different factors at play, and there are no easy answers. But by examining the issue from all sides, we can gain a deeper understanding of what's at stake and what the potential consequences of different actions might be. So, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. What are the long-term implications of Europe's approach to Russia, and how might it impact the future of global politics? Is there a way for Europe to balance its need to counter Russian aggression with its desire to maintain a constructive relationship with Moscow? These are just some of the questions we'll be exploring in today's episode. We'll be discussing the latest developments in the conflict, hearing from experts and analysts, and examining the potential consequences of different courses of action. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're diving into the world of politics and media today, as a high-profile lawsuit has made headlines. President Donald Trump has filed a $15 billion defamation lawsuit against the New York Times, accusing the paper and 4 of its reporters of libel. According to court documents, the lawsuit claims that several articles and a book written by 2 journalists before the 2024 election were part of a decades-long pattern of intentional and malicious defamation against President Trump. The suit alleges that the defendants published false statements about Trump either knowingly or with reckless disregard for their truth. This is not the first time President Trump has taken on a major media outlet in court. Just last month, he filed a $10 billion defamation lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal and media mogul Rupert Murdoch over a story reporting on his ties to wealthy financier Jeffrey Epstein. The New York Times has not yet commented on the lawsuit, but it's likely that this case will be closely watched by both the media and the public. Some have raised concerns about the potential implications of this lawsuit on freedom of the press, while others see it as a necessary step to hold the media accountable for their reporting. As with any complex issue, there are multiple perspectives at play here. On one hand, President Trump's supporters argue that he has been unfairly targeted by the media and that this lawsuit is a way to push back against what they see as biased reporting. On the other hand, critics of the president argue that this lawsuit is an attempt to intimidate and silence journalists who are simply doing their job. It's worth noting that the Supreme Court's landmark decision in New York Times v. Sullivan sets a high bar for public figures like President Trump to prove libel. To succeed in this case, Trump's lawyers will need to demonstrate that the New York Times knowingly published false information or acted with reckless disregard for the truth. As this story continues to unfold, we'll be keeping a close eye on developments and bringing you updates as more information becomes available. For now, it's clear that this lawsuit has significant implications for both the media and the presidency. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're wrapping up today's show with a look at the latest developments in Taiwan, where tensions with China continue to escalate. The Taiwanese government has launched a new civil defense handbook aimed at preparing citizens for potential crises, including a military invasion by China. This comprehensive guide provides checklists and strategies for emergency situations, such as air raid sirens, tsunamis, and even non-friendly actors conducting live fire drills near Taiwan. It's a sobering reminder of the very real threats that Taiwan faces and the importance of being prepared. The handbook is part of a broader effort by the Taiwanese government to emphasize the role of civilians in defending against a potential invasion. This includes civil defense courses, emergency shelter locations, and instructional videos for emergency situations. It's worth noting that China has long claimed Taiwan as its own territory and has stepped up its military exercises and patrols in recent years. The situation is complex and multifaceted, with both sides having legitimate concerns and grievances. As we report on these developments, it's essential to approach the topic with nuance and balance. We must recognize the sovereignty and autonomy of Taiwan, while also acknowledging China's historical and cultural claims to the island. Ultimately, the goal should be to promote peace, stability, and dialogue between all parties involved. By staying informed and engaged, we can work towards a more peaceful and prosperous future for everyone. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, stay informed.